Look at this guy.
Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. I love it.
Yeah,
God.
man.
That's
We're
perfect
back.
with the Wizard of Oz.
We are back. Welcome to Midjourney Fast Hours podcast. Doing a little Midjourney After Dark, so you know we're having a great time. Rory Flynn, Drew Brucker, back in the building. No live event this time, but we enjoyed the hell out of last week. That was a lot of fun.
Hell
man.
yeah.
We had a really, really good turnout for that too. And the chat was lighting up. We had good questions along the way. Yeah, it was just like a fun sort of middle of the day event. And usually we do this kind of in our own little bubble. So that was fun.
Yeah, it's good to interact with everyone. You know, good to get some comments. We just looked over them again just to see if there's any like pretty substantial questions that we could answer. Shout out to Garth Corden for calling out my melon hat and how many of them I own. The answer is 4. I try to keep it a very, very good assortment of these on hand because they're the only hats that fit my head accordingly.
I'm actually surprised that you have 4 because
Yeah.
to me, I mean, you always have one on, but
Always.
I feel like I maybe knew you had 1 or 2, and it was just the same 1 or 2. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they're all dark.
There's more.
They're all dark though. Right?
They're all black. They're all black, just with different subtle colors. You know,
See?
you gotta have black hats, man. They go with everything. It doesn't matter what
They
you
do.
what you wear.
They do.
So it's not like you got a green hat on, and that's a little bit of weird mixed in. But yeah, you gotta just gotta have a rotation. They also don't get dirty. So
Yeah.
As I say that, I
Yeah.
just looked up and saw a sweat stain on my hat, and I'm like, oh, no, right as I'm about to say it, but. They just don't. You can wash them, and they're good. They get wet. They get clean. I like it. I don't get the sweat stains.
Yeah, man.
The little white stuff.
Do you want to break the bad news that our third co-host will not be joining us this evening?
She is on vacation. Florida Faye is living her
Florida
best life.
Faye.
Yeah, she went on a boat today, and I sat here in the rain. So. She's living the good life, that one, and I miss her,
Look at
but she's
that.
coming back tomorrow, and the chaos will continue. So, you guys will have a Faye-free episode. No screaming in the background. It's actually almost too quiet here, but
I know it is too quiet there, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not even. It doesn't feel like a New York type of vibe going on there right now.
y-
Maybe if you
no
open
one
your
walking
window
behind
up.
me. You know what? I could do that. You sure
You
wanna
guys
hear
getting
that?
good weather this week? Because we've
Decent.
been like the last three days have been 70s. And It was even
Oh, come on.
80. It was 80 yesterday, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I went outside in sweatpants and a sweatshirt yesterday for the first time, meaning I didn't have to wear like a winter jacket because it was 50 degrees, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're getting somewhere. But back down to freezing this weekend, and it's going to be like 18 tomorrow morning or something like that. So we love New York. We love it here. I promise.
Oh, by the way, locked in for that trip. End of March. So
Cool.
I think it's like 23rd, 24th. Maybe are the 2 days that maybe overlap while you're there because I think you're leaving on 25th,
25th.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We got to do something. Maybe anyone who's
Yeah.
in New York, we try to meet up. We try to do something that's
Let's do
see if we
something.
find a bar, something like that. Have some fun. Talk about SREF codes.
There you go.
Whatever else we want to do.
People still confused about style reference, style codes out here. What are mood boards? Jeez, I don't know.
So I took my first shot this week at it took me long enough after we've talked about it on here at nauseum to sort of like write down my thoughts on mood boards and try to like systematize it into content. Dude, it was so hard. I started thinking about it. I'm like, there's a million variables to this.
Did you end up writing anything about it?
So I was writing it for the course, and I'm going through and writing the PowerPoint slides and whatnot, and I just keep going.
Okay.
I'm like, man, and I kept going, and I'm like, this could be 100 pages. When you start getting into it, it's like there's so many variables. It's like, oh, if you want to do a short one, you do it like this. If you want to do a middle one, if you want to do a long, like a big one with a lot of variants. I'm like, then when it's like, oh, you get to the point of creating the mood boards, it's like, okay, well, now we have to go back into what type of shots you need. This is that you want to have the textures, the lighting. I'm like, oh my God, this is so. There's so much in our heads that we just like don't ever put down onto paper a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, oh man, this could be a 2-hour sort of module if I let it be, because there's so much,
Right.
and you don't realize how much we've talked. I mean, we've talked about it for probably like 4
Well, we
hours.
did. I
on
mean,
here.
yeah, I was going to say, like, just sort of coincided with the fact that there wasn't much else happening on Midjourney side other than that for what 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, dude, there's a lot to dig into here. So we had like 3 or 4 episodes just on mood boards.
Oh man, I was trying to make a decision tree, so like a
Oh,
little
fuck,
mind map
don't-
of where to
yeah.
go. Because I'm like,
It
this is gonna
sounds
be
great.
easy.
It sounds
does.
great in theory. Yeah, it really does. It's like, dude, this is gonna be a killer. This is gonna be a killer piece of content because it's like, dude, a
Yeah.
decision tree or like some sort of logical flow or mind map makes a ton of sense. But then you quickly realize
Start
you're just
doing
like,
it.
oh fuck,
It's
not
like
even
2
good.
hours later, I've moved things around like 30 times, and I'm like, this is more complicated than it was 30 minutes ago. I need to dial this back. But
Oh my God.
it started to get into like the wow, like you can really go any way you want with this. But fail on my part there. So that's still a work in progress because even think about running carousels, right? Like when we were in the carousel heyday, and I was pumping 2-3 of these out a week.
I know,
It was-
man. I
It was
miss
a little
it.
easier. Like this
miss it.
one's really hard to sort of explain step by step, and then sort of like here's exactly how you do it and what you do. It's a little bit more variable, especially when like it comes to data sets. That was the one thing I was finding this week. So another little tip on mood boards for everyone: one image can screw up the entire mood board, and I learned that by adding a couple extra ones to some of the ones I've been working on, because I was like, oh, it'll make it tighter. And then the generations I started getting were crap, so I removed 2 to 3 of them that I added, and it was 10 times better. And I was like, it was really sensitive in that sense.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you're not getting what you want every once in a while, it's like just a test removing some images.
Yeah, that's a
'cause
great point.
There's been I'm finding the sweet spot is really like 15 to 25, like in that range. Like 30 is tending to get a little bit too heavy on something. Like if I'm looking for like a consistent, like if I wanted to build a storyboard, right? Like that's sort of the range that I'm looking for, is that 15 to 25 range, so that it's variable enough but tight enough at the same time without going too overboard.
Okay,
But yeah,
I think
spending a lot of
that
time
what
with
you
that.
just said was very interesting, which was storyboard. Is that could you almost think of mood board in that sense as synonymous with storyboard? Meaning like how much are you going to vary in terms of how you're going to use this mood board, right? Because and this goes down to like loose or tight, but it's just like if you're going to treat it more like a storyboard, there are a select few opportunities that you would use that for.
Yeah.
Versus a mood board could be a little bit more diverse in that sense. So like I guess what I'm trying to say is I wonder if like storyboard feels like there are tiers to this. Almost like one image, 5 images, and then maybe you have something like a storyboard. Then you have maybe like this mood board idea, which is a little bit more of like your 20 to 30 range of different diverse things. And then you've got the long game, which we talked about. It's like, dude, you go up to 100 images. Do you need to? No, but like you could. And I've got some, I think we talked about this. Like I've got a couple that are like 90 something.
Yeah.
And they work well, but it's just like, again, how are you going to use it?
Yeah.
So
That's where. So if you want the cliff notes of where I ended up with all
I
of
would.
that,
Yeah. Give
the
us
first,
the cliff notes.
The first slide I came up with was define your goddamn end goal.
Yeah. I was going to say, dude.
Start
because
there.
That's
Like,
that's
start
what,
there.
Every time we talk about this, it's like it's that, right? If that's not the first part of the conversation, we're just like there's too many things at play here. There's just too many things at play. So it's really like this amorphous thing you can't describe then.
Because I would love to have like it's like when you do, if we're trying to like educate on SREF or something like that, or I'm trying to build content on SREF, right? You can show like, okay, I attach this image. This is what the one image looks like. This is what the output looks like. This is what the input looks like without it, or the output looks like without it. This is what it looks like with it. Or then let's then dial up the style weight so you can see how it affects it all the way through. It's like very easy to digest that way. But with this, there's so many variables that come into play when it's you're adding multiple images to one space to then sort of making a homogeneous style to then transfer it to something else. But that end result, because I was kind of trying to break it down in terms of like categories. Like if I was doing like more of like an SREF style, it was like 1 to 3 images would do on a mood board, like just an SREF, like to have like sort of a generic, ad. Like I was doing it, for example, like a sunrise, like just having like 3 different images of like a sunrise with the coloration, and then like adding that into the images. It does like a nice little SREF sort of transfer. But like,
Sure. Do you want to pull it up?
let me see here. So that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, let's pull it up. I mean, there's still a lot of people too going deep with, especially I would say on X, like, going into the style codes, still unlocking them. I was going on really, really hard on that for a while. I probably did a run on that maybe like 2 weeks ago. And I mean, there's just still so many good ones out there, but it's like, how much time do you have to go through them? And then if you're not educating or sharing them in that sense, which is like a lot of the things that we do, like,
Yeah.
how much is it actually worth going down that path, right? Like you do, again, goes back to what you said. What's the end goal? Do you have an end goal in mind? Like, do you have a rough idea as to what it would be? And obviously there's a part of this that's just fun and you don't mind wasting the time. At the same time, I think I've just been trapped in this mindset lately. I'm just like, dude, I have no time. So like, if I'm going to play, like, I kind of need to have some direction going on here, but
Let me see if I can find this actually while we're on, before we get into the mood boards. There's one thing that for our SREF miners out there, if you haven't done this, where is the
oh, you know what, Rory?
here?
We haven't, Rory, we
there we
haven't
go.
shown sort of we didn't go through that on the last episode either. So
Oh, we
that
didn't.
update, right, to folders organization. I mean, it's not huge, but there are some nice little components in there. Like,
Yes.
you've got folders, which if you back up, click it, show them where that's at now. So top right.
Okay, top right.
But I did like too, Roy, how they added in folders the subfolder part.
Yes.
I mean, just stuff like that, right? Because it's like otherwise it gets too long. And I'm thinking like even the same thing too with mood boards, right? Like we've created enough mood boards now where you just gotta like scroll down, check mark, and then that's kind of like a pain in the ass. Also, I would just say we created that mood board collection. And people ask about, well, how do I, you get the code, right? You got to plug it in. The part that kind of sucks though is there's no way to like force feed that in to your drop down, which kind of sucks, right? Just kind of
Like
some
SREF
things like
codes.
that. Yeah.
I mean, it's like that. So like
great point.
if everyone missed that, you just hit the little folder button up here and then you create your new folder and then, however, what is that about? Why is it asking me for my email? That was weird. You just type in there and go, but also like if I like this image, you can just go add this to any of your folders.
There you go.
Here,
Love that.
which is great, super nice. But the other thing that's exceptional that I find to be the best thing is for our SREF code miners, right? I just put this in here and I open the folder and now you can generate within the folder. So if you just want to have a place to store all of your SREF codes, just like and only mine out of one folder, they can all auto populate into here. So it doesn't.
That's
have to
a
go
great call out because even
simple one.
Well, actually, I haven't done it since that happened, but I wouldn't have thought of that if I just did it just now. And I think that's a great point because otherwise, right? It's like, how do you track those? There are only so many ways to sort of like manipulate the organization of it. And what I was doing specifically for SREFs was the ones that I would like, I would make sure like I hearted those, right? Just as an easy way to go back to all the ones that I liked. Right. And the other way that I do that with just general images, I usually upscale images that I really like, that I know I'll probably use. And so like that makes it a lot easier to kind of put those in one place. And I know you came up with that other idea too, which was a good one of
That was like hacking
you could go
around
into
it.
chat. You could go into chat, right? And, dump them in there too. But that's well needed. Yeah, I think that's
So this
cool.
is just, as you can see up here, it just says generating an sref codes now. So if I was to like hit this prompt and just do sref random, right? Like they'll all just start generating in the sref code folder,
That's
so I don't even
smooth.
have to leave it,
Yeah.
which is great because now I can, when I scroll through this, it's very easy to look at the style codes too. You know, it's very very visually aesthetic to just find them this way, which I haven't been getting some great ones. I've been getting pretty mid ones if I have to use the Gen Z terminology there. And no
Yo,
pun
this
intended.
guy.
No pun intended
guy.
on with mid the word in general. But
Yeah.
really
Putting the mid in
uh,
Midjourney.
that's right. That's what these sref code. That's what
So
my
what do
folder
you
should
do?
be
You,
called.
I'm curious. You know that I run like a single thing for whenever I do these. Do you run the same prompt when you unlock them typically,
Most
or
of the time.
how are you? Yeah.
I just run this samurai one because I know samurai. They typically put a lot of detail in the samurais. Just like, you know, if I type in, you know, the metallic spherical ball, like I don't feel like I don't get a real good sense of what
What
it
if
can
you
do.
just put samurai instead of street style photo though?
Let's see, samurai sref random R4. Also, if
You got
anyone
a mood board on too though.
Oh, do I? Oh, crap! No
Yeah.
wonder.
See, man, I hate
See, this is
there's
where
there's something about that where it's like, dude, there's too many things going on now.
Yeah,
And
there is.
If you, there is, like mood boards. Do I have, the paper clip on for style reference with my style weight? Like if I'm running parameters, do I put a comma in between every single? There's so many little trip
There is.
ups that happen.
I have a little thing that I would love to have Midjourney fix, and if someone knows how to do this, it'd be
bro,
great.
I like go back to that for a second.
Going back.
I like the idea that this idea of just doing the samurai specifically without the other stuff, because now to me, the way that I look at that is like those codes look a lot different. There's more variance.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Between those. So it's easier to kind of say, okay, this is what this style code is, But
That makes sense.
at the same time though, right? Like if it's something that you would typically prompt for, the other side of that is like, okay, you kind of know exactly what you're going to get if this is going to be your style of prompt. So I guess there's two ways to look at it.
I think the reason I do the photo, I use the photo in there, like the token of photo, is because I want to see if it can actually translate to photorealistic sometimes. Because, every once in a while you find the bangers, but they just don't. They just, then you have to drop the style weight, and then it's like it's not really the style code anymore. So, I'm always trying to look for ones that are photorealistic.
Bro, you should take that. You should take that top one and do your Japanese poster right now. I have a feeling that would be fire.
So if we go just up here and throw one of these on, and then let's get rid of
I just
MB.
have a feeling.
Let's see. I have to. There we go. Let's see what it wants to do. Oh, I did it in the wrong. See, I did it in the wrong aspect ratio. I might need to actually put the words.
What do you think about?
Ooh, hold up. Wait a minute.
Yeah. See.
All right. I see
Sick.
what's going on here.
Sick.
I like that one a lot. That's got some vibe.
You could also take that same SRF code though, just do the text prompt, not even the mood board too, and probably get a fucking banger.
Probably. You're probably 100% right about that. See, this is what happens at night sometimes, and this is how you end up with a Japanese poster, movie poster mood board. This is what happens.
Yeah, dude, sick.
All right. I screw with it. That's
Yeah.
yeah. See, this is fun. This is just the pure fun side of things.
I love
Then
that.
you have to also remember to take, just so everyone knows, if you're generating within a folder, just remember to take it off, or else you'll end up generating everything in that folder, and then that sort of diminishes the value of your folder.
See, this is exactly the conundrum we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like there are still, and that's kind of the way it was getting with Discord. They got to the point where right before they launched the website, right? It was just like there's too much going on here.
Yeah.
Right? Like with the way that the UI worked with adding image reference. And I think they had just launched style reference. It's just like, oh shit, there's too much happening here.
There is.
we're kind of reaching that point too now on the website, and especially when you use these other tools, which I know you are. Like you would ask me, I think like a week or two ago, if I had used image gen yet. I hadn't. I played around with it just the other day for a little bit with a particular thing, and the coherence was killer. The problem was I couldn't get it to look quite photorealistic. And I think that could just be me not being super familiar with how it works. But that's when they have all those little drop down selections. So does a lot of these other tools where it's like, okay, well, let me add 35 millimeter. Let me add this. And like I just noticed when I toggled certain things, like it didn't really change much.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, like I like the coherence a lot here because I'm throwing a lot at it. But it just doesn't feel photorealistic enough. It just it still has a little bit of that AI look, and it's just like, well, whatever. But,
little tip on that Imagen thing, if anyone's doing it, it's very similar to Midjourney in the fact that the tokens up front play much bigger role than the tokens down towards the end of the prompt. So I think it's way more sensitive to that, to be honest. And it also has, it's very it's the same thing with frames in Runway. Like if you have from a coherence issue, from a coherence standpoint, it's so good that one word can screw up the whole thing, or one word can sort of bring it in a whole new direction. It's the same thing with VO. Like VO, if you have one word in there, that can. I think I had when I was doing that Ted Bundy short with the Bronco, I had a very clean paint job on the car on every prompt, red and white, and then in one prompt it just kept coming out chipped. I'm like, why is it chipped? And I had the word faded in there somewhere, and I took it out, and it went right away. So it was just one word out of a 50-word prompt that got it. And I was like, okay. So it's really coherent, and it's sensitive. So just anyone who's playing with those tools, that's the X factor there, is that it's good, but sometimes that stuff can happen.
Well, hey, you were, I think we were talking about this, and then you were going to show me something right here on this mood board personalization page, and we kind of went on a tangent. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, I was going to do these short mood boards. I just want to throw this out there to anyone. Is there I would love to reorganize like this, just so I don't have to go all the way down to the bottom to find some of this stuff. But I would love to just have a way to reorganize it. Just throwing that out there, Midjourney. If you're listening, it's not a big ask. Just sift so that when I drop in on my personalization here, that I don't have to search all the way for all of them.
Yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. It's getting ridiculous now with that. You can't. Yeah, this you can't change.
And
that's what I mean. That's what I mean, bro. It's like V7 because this is characters. Sure, you're going to expect the uptick in quality coherence to some degree. Maybe the coherence is different, yada, yada, yada. I know organization has been kind of put off for a while, but I think the last few things that we've talked about here, very, very UX, UI based. Yeah. And I think it's going to be interesting because I heard David on the last office hours for the bit that I did catch. He's like, we're not we was talking about video, but he's like, we're not going to be focused on, filmmakers in terms of trying to do these insane, we're interested in getting these tools and capabilities in the hands of everyday people, the average person that can start, using it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. But that said, the barrier to entry with Midjourney is the interface. I mean, you've got so many things in here that just aren't very intuitive. You have to get a training session from someone like us, or you have to really spend a lot of hours in here or something, right? Because there's just too much. There's too much to know, and it's not intuitive. And that comes down to the organization in a lot of ways too, right? The folders thing, selecting things. I think parameters should just go ahead and probably be a part of that box where you can just select them. I don't know, but that part of it is going to be interesting to see how they address that. It hasn't been a priority yet, but it should be a high priority very soon, in my opinion. It should be.
some of this stuff just needs to get like it was not. It was good when there wasn't 50 other things around it, right? Like it was good. Like it was like the settings bar, right? Like I think the settings bar is perfect because there's not a lot of stuff in it. Would I like to have some other custom control parameters? Yeah, but once you start getting into editor, it's a different interface than what the regular Midjourney homepage, create page, organize pages. You start getting like a little bit more. Okay, why is it different? Why is everything on the left side now on this one where it's on the right side on everything else? But I'm not trying to just get like weird with the platform and be like, why? Like I'll ask all these questions. It's great. I don't mind. Just make the image quality. Just like keep pumping the image quality to me right now. Like if they're looking at new users and being like they can't figure it out, I mean that's probably something that they need to work on themselves of the onboarding side of things, right?
What do you think about this? So obviously consistent characters. We've addressed that a few times. In case you haven't heard us talk about it or you're not familiar, right? Like consistent characters, key piece of V7. Beyond that, also multiple consistent characters. I mean, I haven't heard them say multiple consistent characters in a while, but that was what was teased when they were talking about how this jump's going to happen too, is the idea that like that would be much easier as well.
Omni reference?
I don't know, man. Like, yeah, omni reference, but like I'm just thinking these other tools do have a leg up right now in coherence. The coherence is a little bit different. Now it is a little bit, I don't know, like to your point, like with those other ones, maybe there is a point where it's like coherence becomes a little too strong to then offset the creativity and like, I don't know, want to use randomness as the word, but like, a little bit of like that X factor that can come into play. But that's what I want. Also, because it's like, I love like using image gen in frames from that perspective, but the images don't look as creative as what you get in Midjourney. So it's like, man, if Midjourney could kind of like figure out that gap, that would be a home run for me in terms of what I would expect or want from a V7. But
I agree. I'm kind of like, at this point, Midjourney is so, you can just, I haven't not been able to get something in a long time that I'm looking for. So I really hope that they just I hope it doesn't go too coherent. Like some of the other models, sometimes I think Flux is like too coherent and it has no pop because it's just trying to listen so much.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, there's like this imaginary line in the sand there. Maybe it's just like about how much information you can pump in versus like matter of fact coherence. Maybe that's what we're saying. Because like that was the other thing is I was taking, and maybe just like to keep this a little bit visual here, right? Like I was doing one of my human bouquets for like a particular project. I was going to submit this for like an art piece. There's like a particular theme that's associated with this. And I started doing this in Midjourney. Started doing this in Midjourney.
These are sick, by the way, just so you know.
Thanks, bro. Thanks. Yeah, like I was really liking the way that these coming out. So this is like all about like diversity, hands, unity, blah, blah, blah. But then it got to the point where it's like, okay, like, oh, man, like I wonder if like the diversity and just like skin color of the hands is enough. Like, wonder if I could throw flags in here, like country flags, maybe a little bit of text. That was what made me kind of like, okay, maybe I just should go into frames or image gen and just try something, right? So then I went in here, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, where it just kind of like almost looks a little. There's something about it, a little too AI-ish, slightly.
It's like print. It looks like a print ad. Like it has that like super what's the word I'm looking for? Not saturated. It's got that very.
Yes.
Look at all the old print
what
ads.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what is that?
Like.
I don't even know how to describe that, but it's like this sheen or something where it's like that's AI, like and it's not
plastic.
artistic AI,
No.
versus
But that looks cool though.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, do I keep like trying to bang the table and try to get this closer, or, just kind of like figure something else out and go this route? Because like when you get into flags here, I didn't even try it, but like
No.
I already know it's not going to do a good job, so I don't even need to do that. But that's where you're kind of making a decision. Which platform are you going to use? I don't really use anything outside of Midjourney for anything artistic. So,
Yeah. But I see what you're saying with that, though. I mean, then just bring.
but
the
look
other
at this
images
prompt.
in.
I mean, this is a long prompt, right?
Yeah.
And so
Could you bring it into
that's-
retexture and just do something slight,
Yes.
subtle with it? Just
So-
put your personalization code on it.
I like the way you think, sir.
There you
So
go.
this is where I was like, okay, let me take that from ImageGen and like pick a couple different style refs, play around with style weighting, and just kind of see. Well, actually, I think I upscaled a couple of these. So let's go here versus like digging into the few.
I see what you're saying, though. That
Like
one's got-
almost.
Yeah.
Almost. And like, look, I mean, the reality is like I could still take this into Photoshop.
Yeah.
Right. And like really manipulate, the colors and, dodge and burn and this and that and the other. But like, I don't know. It was just an interesting kind of crossroads because I hadn't really run into that yet. Most of what I've done, I've really been true to Midjourney. I did do some of that stuff. We were talking about that with the Nun, right? Like those latest ones that I did with the one that's spray painting it on the on the building, skater die, like on the high rise, like that I did in frames. I did that in frames. I mean, I couldn't get that in Midjourney. I just couldn't get that in Midjourney. So,
But see, that's the thing is that like, if you need something, I feel like the other tools are more professional in that sense, and in meaning like something needs to be exact to a brief, right? Like where it's like, okay, I need to use this to get the exact thing that I'm looking for. Well, Midjourney's like, put an SREF code in and like pull the slot machine. It's probably going to be awesome. So
yeah.
and I'm coming to love it more for that than anything. Is just like when it just blows me away, like that Pope stuff that I was doing the other day, where I was like, this is great.
And then I just like I would just take it from frames and like I think what I did was like I just resized it. Like I put it in the full editor.
But see, I can tell like that doesn't look like Midjourney to me. Like there's things, there's like where detail would be in these photos, right? Like where it would be in that in the background on the water tower, in the texture of the buildings. Like that's where some of this stuff misses. Yeah, not flat. It's just like there's such a spark with some of the Midjourney stuff that I can't get anywhere else. I don't know how to say it. There's more detail applied to environment in Midjourney than any other generator.
Yeah.
Like,
I think I feel like I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Like it's not just about the subject. Like the environment gets equal treatment. If that makes sense. But
yeah.
That
was a fun one. Like I did that same thing too, like cuz I was doing one with suitcases also. Like so same sort of theme. I was just trying to take like a different approach.
I like that.
I don't know why it like zooms in too much on these. Like it doesn't give me the full image, which is weird. But like then let me go back here. Also kind of like the stuff I was getting here though. And these ones I think I put more of a style code on it.
I see. I like those. Those have to have your personalization on, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I leave my personalization on, and I like never take it off. But like, especially some of these like vintage ones were dope too. Like that one I thought stood out to me. Something like that. But like you see, like they're both not photo real. That's not what this series is. But like whatever this look and feel feels much better than this, and I don't know why. And maybe like that's not the perfect example. I think it's probably like this example, but like there's something there, man. I don't know how to explain it. So
no, I know exactly what you're
saying.
saying.
I say all that to say that
because I get into this argument a lot where people are like, it's like Flux realism is so much more real than Midjourney. And I look at it and I go, that looks so AI. And then people look at the Midjourney stuff and they're like, it's so AI. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's just a visual preference at this point. Whichever one
Yeah.
you work with, I think you sort of get biased towards it. But
I think that could very much be true. I mean, you think
Yeah.
about how many images and times we've clicked that button to submit, insane amount. And we've been doing
a
that
lot.
for years now. So
a lot. There was a I was playing with it the other day. Let me pull this one up.
yeah,
This one was
pull it up.
the Pope one. Unbeknownst to me, the Pope was sick. I didn't know that. I heard the news after the fact, but someone, believe me, people told me about it.
Oh my God, bro. That's right. I didn't even think about that. That's
I-
hilarious.
I kept screwing around with the mood boards and him, and just I couldn't stop because it was just the red is so good whenever you prompt the Pope.
Pump it
It's
up.
like, I was like, I need to see, where's my upscales here? I was like, I need to see what this looks like if I keep going with it. And,
By the way, hey, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
What are you doing right now with images how are you sorting things that you like in Midjourney? Meaning images that you like. Are you upscaling all the images that you
upscale
like?
most of them. Yeah.
Okay. So you
That's
and
probably
I
the
are kind of
best
doing the same
way.
thing. Okay. Yeah. All right.
That or I've just been adding them to the same folder that we used on the end of the year podcast where it said favorites of the year. So then I'll put those in there for the ones that I really
shit.
like. But where was this one I did with him? Maybe I didn't upscale it, but I upscaled it in Magnific to make it look a little bit sharper. But
Yeah.
I created it without a mood board and then I edited it with a mood board. So it got like this so it added like some funky stuff to it, which I was loving, which is another just like an idea for people to play with.
Damn, you really went hard on that.
I did. I was loving it. So all right, so it was like one of these original ones here, I think. It was like this. And I was like, it came out like that, and I'm like, number one, I like it.
Yeah.
But then number two, I'm like, how about if I attach like the Japanese mood board poster, but not like just highlight some of this stuff. Let me see which one I edited. If I have it here. I forget, but there's one of I edited them and just like sort of selected like this area and here, and then just kept prompting to get more ridiculous things. So you end up making the environment. I ended up going with this one, and then editing from there, but keeping it going. But I love using it like that, and then remixing that, because then when you remix that, you can start to get some really interesting stuff, which I would then have to go and probably polish that up. But just really taking the mood board and then applying it only in the editing piece. So if I was, editing here, right, I just wanted to go like this,
Yeah.
whatever, and then like adding a mood board here to give it like a different aesthetic, because I don't even know what I would prompt for an edit.
Oh,
that would give me
interesting.
this kind of stuff. You know what
Well, I
mean?
think that's super interesting. So, but you got to probably type it in manually then.
No, so I didn't really do much. I just kept it exactly the same, and then just added the mood board profile code.
That's what I'm saying.
So
But you got to manually add the code though.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was then what ended up, I think, where I was like,
Oh, that's an
here or
interesting.
something.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
So it's a good way to
I
like
that.
layer in the creation of it, and then I was like, all right, that was fun. I might as well do that with a ton of other things. Meanwhile, then I just started, once I got to the Pope in patent leather red pants, I was like, I gotta keep going with this. And just seeing where we go with the whole thing.
Dude.
But I was having a ton of fun with him, and hopefully he's doing better. But that was a fun little unlock. Was the same way we were using the stock, same way we were using the SREFs in the editing feature, but now like trying to attach the mood boards to it. So thinking that way, but that's sort of where my rabbit hole has been for the week, and then trying to also. Oh, the other thing we totally forgot to go back to this thing, the sunrise. So the sunrise, right? I was like, I just want to add a little bit of like this, instead of going back to our thing of like, can you do it for, are you trying to have like this fully fleshed out mood board, or are you trying to have something that's more like a token, right? Like this can be more like a token in that sense. Like just having this sort of very varied short mood board. And if I was just, instead of doing let's show this as an example.
Don't you wish though? I mean, like I've heard people ask this. We've thought of this. I mean, why can't we weight the mood boards? You know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
here's now, like at first I'm like, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think that's probably we're doing too much. But
Yeah.
at the same time, here's where I think that comes into play, right? Like you were talking, I think this was like 2 weeks ago now, when we were just talking about how you could create mood boards that are sort of like these secondary, tertiary mood boards that you could stack and season with other mood boards.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm saying that is like, well, I mean, shit, you could create a mood board that's just focused on, I don't know, VHS textures or film grain or, you know, like this and that. And if you could weight that, boom. But if you can't weight that, it's going to overpower, you know, something else, right? Because like you think at a minimum, you're going to have to mix that with just one other thing, and that's half the weight. So it's like, is that going to be too much, right? Then you have to balance. I think film grain could work. I haven't tried that yet. Like that, like adding a little bit of noise into it. But for example, like I have tried the VHS textures where I was thinking like a little bit more like grungy effects, and grungy effects are dark. You know, so I guess in that sense, maybe you would have to do the PNGs, you know, with no background to do it, you know, and then it's just like, but it feels like you can't totally control. You know, that I thought was like a really interesting conversation we were having too, because that would open up, again, just like another way to really customize the things that you're creating in that sense.
That's why this one, and I ran the wrong mood board, of course, because it's a Midjourney after hours here, guys. You know, after dark, and my brain is fried. But like, this is what I love about it, is like these, you know, like Runner in the City, great. Like you don't get anything, but sometimes this little like, you know, sunrise here, great. The same thing was with this funky mood board. I just named it that because I was doing a live and trying to show someone how to do it, and all I did was I typed in like 1980s Miami and clicked the first 4 images and put them in a mood board because it all had like this vintage aesthetic to it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right. So it just takes that aesthetic and just applies it right away. It's like, great. Exactly. Same thing here. We get like this sort of like sunrise pink hue in everything, which I think is a nice little piece. That's not going to overtake the image. Like if I was to go and use this with a longer prompt, like it's not going to overtake the image because it's pretty subtle, but you would get some of these pink hues.
Yeah.
The other thing that was the unlock that I wanted to just add, because I have a good example of it here. We were talking about it with the personalization profiles. I went and did this. I did this live the other day where I just went on a personalization just to test it in front of people to make sure that it worked. Right. I wanted to like prove to everyone that it worked, and it wasn't just like pure science and like thought process. So I created a custom profile, and the only thing I did was rank photorealistic images for the 40 images, right? So I created this profile that was photorealistic, right? Just did portrait of an old man with a straw hat, right? And it was like every one of them came out in that photorealistic setting, and then I ran it without it, and just you get oil paintings. What you rank has a significant effect on it. I don't care what David says about rank everything. You don't have to. It does work that way. So I wanted to make sure I dropped that in before, just to know that I tested it just very specifically on a new profile for that specific use case, and it worked. So if anyone wants to go ahead and do that, that's just another little tip to add to your little, like,
I mean, personalization, guys. I mean, I feel like we've probably really hammered this home, but I did do a training the other day, and the first question he asked me was, how do, it seems like you and Rory just get such high quality images every time. How does that happen? I can't get that. It's like, well, there are a lot of different things that come into play there. I think one, like there definitely is some gap that exists of how much have you used this tool?
Yeah.
Because there are so many, in a lot of circumstances, there are 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 different ways to get to the same result. And by the same result, I mean like probably like variations of that result where you're like, oh, which is the best one? Meaning it's like a lot of times it's like, oh, I can do this 3 different ways. I'm going to try all 3 and okay, this is the best way to do it. Right. It's like, there's that, but there's also personalization. Right. And, you know, I think now like you can really develop a pretty solid personalization. I don't know if I could put like a number on it. Like I know the numbers Midjourney throws out there, but I'm just trying not to like let that affect my thought process there. I would say like if you were to rank 1,000 images, shit's pretty concrete, you know. And I would say
only on my I can't push it further. I was just like I like the way it is.
Dude, I'm 18,000.
I know
I stopped.
I don't know how.
I know.
Dude, what do you get on like, you know, you just get on like a binge and you're just like eyes glued to the thing.
Well, you know, there was that period of time. There was that period of time where, you know, it was like, oh man, I want that extra
free fast hour.
I want that free fast hour, man. I'm like, hook me up, man. Hook me up. And then I
just
think
so
it was
everyone knows,
probably
it's
like
pretty easy to get it now. Just a side. I get it when I rank like 100 images.
They messed me up with that because I was like in the habit of doing it. You know, it was like a gym session. You know, like I knew what I was showing up for. I knew that I was going to do this, and then they were like, "No, we're not. We're taking away the free fast hour." It's like, okay. And then they brought it back, but like there were a couple times where I'd ranked hundreds at a time, and I'm like, oh, I didn't get the fast hour. Cool. All right, I'm just not gonna. I don't care that much. I've already ranked enough, so I just kind of stopped. But
you got to be like top 10% of all rankers.
I don't
There's
know.
No way.
18, maybe I stopped a long time ago, though. I stopped a long time ago.
Oh my god, 18,000. That's a lot. I get frustrated after doing 50. I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like I can't do more than that.
18,019.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What? Is that on just one profile or is that in total?
That's on the global. That's on the global. That's just on the global. Lord. And I can't even imagine, you know, that doesn't even count the liked images, right?
No.
You know, were we talking about that? I mean, why can't they personalize based on liked images and use that as the primary factor, or at least weight it the same as the pair rankings? It's got to be because the pair rankings do something for them internally that the liking the explore page images doesn't. That's my speculation because to me, think about the fact that you could go on an explore page, and we've talked about this, like you could scroll just a little bit and you've already found a couple images that you really like. So it's like, okay, that feels, you know, versus the pair rankings, you rarely come across images where you're like, oh shit, both of these are great images. Like, which one do I pick? You know, whereas like this, if they were weighted equally, it would be a much faster way, in theory, to identify what someone likes and tweak the personalization based off that.
There's another interesting play on this on the explore page, which I hadn't even thought of until like it sort of played into what you do. But I was trying to build this longer mood board, the little atoll, that one, and I was like creatively tapped that day for whatever, but it wasn't outputting what I needed. So I'm like, I need some more generic looking stuff in the same color palette, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to the explore page, and I used the smart search with the images to get like something that was a similar color palette but more generic, less
with your own images too, right?
Yeah, I was using that to go in there and find it, and then like, okay, I'm going to add this to the mood board. So
because that's also a really good
sourced.
point. Like we've talked about that a few times, and I show kind of like the same example, but there's two different ways to go about it, right? Like you could go through this route of like, okay, let me just type a random word, something maybe I'm looking for. It's like, okay, this, right? Whereas these are very diverse. You've got this, then you click the smart search. All of a sudden you have images that look a lot like each other. But I guarantee this is under leveraged by people, but you can do this on your own images, right? Like you just go here and like, I don't know, these are pretty crazy. So I have no idea what's going to pop up here, but like I could just go in here and then click this. Right. And then you've got, these are just other ideas.
But there's some sick ones though. Like
there are sick ones. So it's like,
yeah.
Dude, I mean, like this is an under leveraged part from the reference, the inspo, mood board, style reference. Like you know, like everything you need is probably already here. You're just not using it.
Dude, when it was cool the other day, I did
like
that.
even look at this. This is like, this kind of feels like something
Kinda.
like I would create, you know. But
Yeah. I did this the other day on some of my my Tulum rave images because I was trying to find some stuff that looked similar. And then I'm going through there and I'm like looking at some of the images. I'm like, that looks exactly like mine. And I would open it up and it's my exact prompt. So it's whatever I shared online, you know? I'm like, it's cool that people are trying it though, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I found like multiple ones like that. I'm like, all right, this is
oh,
you know,
look,
this
is
social.
this is mine. Well, this
There-
must have been
see?
a public. This must have been a public one that I had at
There
some
you go.
point. See, that's funny. And then you can go in and, you know, again, like,
Yeah,
so
you
you
keep
can go
going
down
down
these whole.
You can build a mood board
rabbit
from
holes.
this.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
this is. I think I still feel like that's such an under leveraged way to do so many things. Whether it's building an idea of how you want to generate something you've never generated before, which we did on that micro decisions pod, or it's just like, okay, like I really like a lot about this image. Like, let me search like images. Maybe there's like one idea that I see in another image that I could add to mine, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, right? So
That was a really solid unlock. I don't even know how you came to clicking on the magnifying glass.
I can't even.
I never would have
You
clicked
know
on
what?
it ever.
I do remember. I remember exactly where I was at when that happened because I was like, because they had that option, right? And you know this because of the OG days, but like they had that option when it was Discord. Midjourney had a site, and there were like that like images kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you could kind of get a sense of that. And you're just like, oh, okay, like these are some like variation. It kind of almost felt like you had hit like a 2x very subtle on your image, and then these
Yeah.
are the other images that showed up. And I can't remember, but I actually unlocked that on my phone, not even on the desktop. Like I was just like, something was there, clicked it, and I was like, wait a second, I didn't go about doing that the same way that I did that. And I was like, this is interesting. And ever since then, that saved me so much time. And I would say for the most part, going back to that idea of like, okay, maybe I've got to create a project and I've got to create something and I've never done this before. Where do I start? Right? Like, because I want to speak the language that Midjourney speaks to get the thing that I want. And you can do that through text. You can do that through SREF. You can do that through, you know, now mood board. You know, like there's just so image reference. Like there's so many ways to kind of take parts to build a net new.
Yeah. But that search functions, it's helpful, especially I think, you know, for mood boards. Because a lot of times, like I was saying before, there's a couple images that just either screw it up or overweight something within the mood boards. I was actually getting a lot more questions about mood boards.
I think that's a really good point, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, because you got to think if it's 100 images, that each image would have a 1% take.
Correct.
If it's 20%, they each have what, 5% take? So you remove 2 images, you're changing the whole thing by 10%, right? And like it's like, yeah, okay.
So this was another quick unlock today because going back to that profile little trick that we just did, the creating the photorealistic one. I was talking to Chris Branch. He was having trouble. I don't know if you've had this. I've had this a little bit, but regardless of how sharp the images are that you're putting into the mood board, whether that be upscaled or like super textured or whatnot, like the output tends to come out a little bit softer.
Fidelity's still not there. Yeah.
So that's where I was like, when they're like, should we upscale it? Should we like super high res it? Should we, you know, really go in there and fine tune the texture? And I'm like, I think you just need a profile code that adds the texture to it. So like you have to go and look into, you know, the profile code.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So because the profile, like my profile code, because it's so like gritty and textured to begin with, whenever I add it, like I never even notice the difference. But like when I do it without it, I get that softer. There's a little bit more smush face, a little bit more like. It's very similar to CREF. Like when CREF transfers a face, and it's not perfect, but it gets a little bit less. You know, it gets a little bit more fuzzy or like less clear. That was
so true, dude. That's so true.
Right. It's kind of how it feels in mood boards sometimes. But then the profile code is what takes over and helps.
That's another reason why I think it makes sense to stack. You guys stack some sort of personalization on top of whatever mood board, because like when you don't do that, even if you do have the upscaled images, or even if you do take them into magnific, it's still not great. You almost have to stack it.
That was the one thing, and then I was also the iPhone one has been a really good stackable piece where I just took the iPhone photos.
I was gonna say, man, I feel like that was a really good move.
It's been awesome for
that.
like bringing, like taking away the model look from a lot of things, even on a mood board with like that has like a lot of. It would be perfect for models if that makes sense, and it's like you're adding this like pictures of me, who is obviously not a model, into that sort of data set. It's like, okay, we'll bring this down a notch, but that one's a nice stackable piece for anyone who's thinking about it. But
you just made me. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish.
I was going to ask you a question about your mood boards. If you're adding a lot of people into them, or if you're utilizing more like environment, like sort of.
Oh, well, because most of what I do, like I have a figure in there. I mean, I don't do too much stuff that doesn't. So yeah, I would say anything photorealism, I've got people in there. I do have a couple boards, right, like that are in our collection too, where it's like, I think Glass FX was one. For example, like looking back at that, it's just like a lot of items. It's just like a lot of items. It's not people. You know what I mean? So it's like I would never use that for people unless I was blending probably like 3 or more mood boards from that sense. But
because it's an interesting balance. So this is where I've been going with that too. Is the interesting balance is it's the more people you have, it's sometimes like it's actually better than the less people you have, because the less people
meaning like total number of images with people, or the number
total
of
number
people in
total
an image?
number of images with
okay
people.
Okay.
So if you had 30 and you have out of 30 pictures you have 3 pictures with people in it, they start to look like those people like consistently. So it's like there's a transfer of the look, like the way SREF still brings some image construction in. So like to me, it's either you gotta diversify the people set in there, but also the camera angle plays a huge role, because I was like with Atoll specifically, I remember I had like maybe 4 or 5 images of people just that were super low angle, and it just forced low angle on everyone because I did a lot of environment with that.
Though, that's a nice little category to build a mood board around: camera angles.
Yeah, another one. Great.
Try to like force feed it, right? Because like with anything, like think about something like low angle. I actually did a test with that, like on a training the other day, where it's like, let's run low angle on different aspect ratios, because you remember that was a big problem for a while.
Yeah,
I ran that on 3 or 4 different aspect ratios, like doing a permutation, and each time actually it gave me 2 out of 4 that were low angle across 4, and I was like, oh, okay. Like before, I'm pretty sure this aspect ratio wouldn't have gotten me a low angle at all.
like 16:9.
So I don't know if
or like 2:1.
16:9,
really?
yeah,
Right.
16:9, and like I was like, oh, okay, that was interesting. But like you could force feed a specific camera angle on a mood board, right? Like obviously you'd still have to think about the style itself. Is this photorealistic? Like what is that underneath that subcategory of style? But at the same time, some of those camera angles are very hard to get consistently. So if you think about like forcing consistency, maybe that could work.
So that's what I was noticing, was that because I was mainly focused on the environment for the vibe of that one, but I needed some people to sort of like have a construction in there. But when I was testing it, it was around like 40 images instead of 70, where I think it's at now. It was like every single thing was coming out low angle, and I was like, drone shot, and it was like low angle. I was like, okay, I think I know what the problem is.
The drone came low. Yeah,
yeah, the drone was very low. The drone was like underwater. I was
shit.
like, okay, so that's. I just didn't realize that people were. I've been getting a lot of questions about mood boards, and I didn't realize people were having that many issues with them. And that's when I was like, all right, let me go put the whole thought map to get mind map together.
I'll let me be super critical for a second. I do think mood boards aren't super great with people, regardless how many people you throw in there.
Yeah.
I've got like a couple of mood boards I'm thinking right now where I've got a lot of people in there, and still the fidelity part is a little bit of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. I think besides going to the full spectrum of what you're talking about with iPhone photos, which I think that part of it is great, right? But anything outside of that, there's some kind of low fidelity issue that occurs. I think mood boards, in my experience so far, are really, really great if you're sacrificing a little bit of the photorealism or you're doing illustrative stuff. You can get into that artsy stuff really easy. You can get into some sort of illustrative stuff, 3D stuff real easy. But like that, if your sole focus is photorealism and you're going to use a mood board, I don't know, it's kind of tough. Certain
Need
ones
the
work,
profile
certain
code.
ones don't, right? Remember that clay one, for example? You were
Yeah.
showing me some photos. You kept getting the nudes on them, and I was like, "What?" I didn't even put a nude in here. But I don't know. Some of those ones with people came out really well for me too, though.
Yeah.
Where others didn't at all, and I have no idea why. I have no idea why.
It's weird. That's what I think it's, again, you need the profile code stacked in there to sort of bring it home if you have a photorealistic sort of profile code. But yeah, I was going to test this. I should have done this before we got on, was just to make one with pure environmental shots. No people and see how they generate.
And then try. Yeah.
Yeah. To see if there was if it would just sort of not distort or homogenize all the people into one sort of image of what it should be in the mood board, because it does take it takes a lot of the characteristics in that, specifically in that atoll one, which I keep referencing it because that was the one that was the hardest for me to build, because it kept little variables kept screwing around in it. But for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a very overcast, gray and teal, sort of Seychelles kind of look. But I basically only had white people and people black people sort of in there, from an image set standpoint. So I only had South African women and white dudes, and that's sort of how it mashed, and it became everyone became just overly saturated tan, and it was
Oh,
it was a total
wow.
blending
Okay.
of the.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, so everyone comes out this really sort of muted, dark, darker tannish brown. You
only
couldn't
had-
tell what nationality they are.
Did you only have
it-
two photos in there of the people, or you had
Probably
multiple photos of just those two types?
Just those two. So there's probably 6 images of people,
Okay.
and they're all
That's weird. That's weird
it's
to me.
you can't tell I kind of like it because you can't tell what nationality they are. It's a total mix mash of everything, which is why it's cool. That's why it came out that way. I was wondering why it was, because I was I don't understand this. But
Hey, I want to drop a random thought. There was, people ask us all the time about how to get natural looking people. I remember one of the OG tokens. I remembered this in between the last time that we talked and now. Wabi-Sabi.
what?
Wabi-Sabi.
What the hell is Wabi-Sabi?
WABI-SABI. Bro,
Hold on.
This was an OG token. So basically, it's a tradition, it's a Japanese word, and it's centered on I'm reading the definition here. In traditional Japanese aesthetic, wabi-sabi is centered on the acceptance of transience and imperfection. The aesthetic is sometimes described as one of appreciating beauty that is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete.
Hold on.
So I remember seeing wabi-sabi from the OG Discord days, with prompts that had people in it, and I never see it anymore. I don't hear anybody talking about it anymore. I completely forgot about it for a year and a half. And somehow I was like, damn, wabi-sabi, started using that, a couple of those prompts. Because we talk about some of those tokens, right, that can play pretty big. And wabi-sabi was one of those that used to really do some heavy lifting with
doing some good
imperfection,
stuff right
natural, average. Yeah. So, hey, if you still listen, this is why you wait till the end. This
Wait
is
till the
why you
end.
stay to the end.
Because we remember all the good stuff at the end.
Well, I mean, we go hard the whole time. So like, you can't just drop off. We're gonna randomly run into a conversation. We're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, we're going to remember
mention
the
this.
good stuff. Yeah, that's what happens towards the end of the podcast. We try to get through what we need to in the
Wabi-Sabi.
beginning. Wabbies, that's the name of the episode. Wabi-Sabi.
Yes.
Dude, that's a good. I never heard that one before.
Oh, I can't wait for you to use that because if you don't know about this, bro, you're gonna love this. And I'm excited because I haven't used it in so long too. But I tried it the other day. I was like, oh, it still works. I don't know if it's as good as it used to be, but
let's see if I throw. I need to put this in with.
Hey,
like,
you know what?
the
Why
mood
don't you,
boards
do you
and
want
stuff
to
like
do you want to share your screen? Why don't you run 2 prompts right now? One with like I don't know something super basic, and then using Wabi-Sabi as the variable.
All right, let's see. Now you got to tell me if I spelled it right. Did I spell it right?
Split it up, and then let me double check. I'm gonna make sure it does have a dash in between. So Wabi-Sabi.
All right, let me add my. Let me get rid of this stuff. Wabi-Sabi. Actually, I'll turn personalization off first, and then we'll give this a whirl.
Yeah.
Because this one, it's like, I dig it for just random portrait. Fine. You know, we're not trying to. All right. Not bad. All right. So now let's run it without it, is what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Because I also want to run this with I want to run this with the personalization on to see what it'll do. My personalization is going to get real funky.
Bring it. Bring the funkiness.
All right. So I can see the difference here. There's definitely some sort of difference.
Run it. Yeah. Like maybe run it a couple times because I mean.
There you go with my profile code. I knew we'd get there.
See, dude, I feel like this might even be a really good one for you and your style too. Just because I know this is what you like, what I like, what a lot of people are trying to get. And again, right, when we were asked this question, I mean, there were like so many answers to this. But like, you know, like if you can find like a token that's like 1 or 2 words, that's also great because it's like you're also thinking about the limitation of coherence that exists. It's just like a nice little holding category, right? Like this one, I could tell that one doesn't have it. I looked at it right away. I was like, no, you don't have it in there, do you? And you didn't.
Let's see. Let's run this. I'll run this R3, and then I'll run.
And then also like other variables here too, guys, right? Like stylized, personalization.
Okay. Wabi-Sabi. What did I have here?
Plus, it's just fun to say and have in your prompts. So,
I mean, when you said it, I was like, "What? I wasn't expecting Wabi-Sabi to come out."
I know you weren't.
It's like you could say like blemished skin or something.
Right?
It's like no, Wabi-Sabi. All right.
But
so
I
this
mean,
one,
also like you look at that one though, the street style portrait of a man, 85 millimeters, with your global profile. Those look pretty good though without Wabi-Sabi. I mean, I guess you could say
profile,
chalk that up a little bit to your profile. But like, look at the one below it. That one looks totally
one?
different to me. Like
these, yeah,
those two, like
because then let's see what it looks like with it though. But then we get way more. Like that definitely brings out some really good stuff.
It's like unique looking people. Like you know, maybe that's a little bit of that.
This dude, perfect. You know, like that's exactly what I'm looking for. Is something
that's a vibe.
That is a vibe. I have to steal his token now. What have I been doing?
Wabi-Sabi.
I mean, crazy.
Bro, that's such I'm telling you right now, that is such an OG little token that I don't know where the first time I saw it, but it's one of the early days. I don't even think I ever used it a lot. I just remember it and probably went through like one of those typical phases where I used it a few times and I just kind of forgot about it and never used it again. But glad I remembered it. I think it's a good one, especially if you're trying to break the mold, right? Like which we can
rock.
So
we can rock and roll with this.
Look
stuff.
at that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the good stuff right
Let's
there.
Let's go.
All right. We'll get, learn something every podcast. This is
man. This is why I
Wabi-Sabi.
love doing it with you, because there's always something you drop and I'm like, shit, I didn't even think about that. You know?
We'll get, we got to go back at some point to see some of the like really old stuff, like the Midjourney version, like maybe version 4, like some of the stuff that we were prompting for. Because I've been bringing that stuff in.
Is there an easy way to go back to see, like almost like a Wayback Machine for Discord V4 Midjourney?
It's on your organize. I'm pretty sure you can do it. Can't
but
you
like
organize
maybe
in
things
the
that I
V4?
didn't use too. Like man, it would be so cool to have that universal idea of what tokens were popular when, and I don't know.
This was because if I go to, sometimes I like to go to 3.
Oh shit! Yeah, I guess I haven't. I haven't really done that. Yeah, you're right.
See some of the chaos that was version 3.
That is pure chaos, sir.
Oh man, some of these were cool. I mean,
They
like
were cool. That was a fun time.
that. Like I was like, whoa, we're getting close. But version 4, you start to go back to some of like the real stuff when you're like, this is when it all jumped off.
That's when it popped off. Do you remember, like, when you look at those, do you remember where you were at when you created them?
Oh yeah, 100%. Sitting right over here on my couch. I know exactly when I was making Facebook as a Pixar character. I think that's what this one was. There's a bunch of them like that I remember going back doing this dog collar because I was like, oh wait, you can do like that was one of my first content pieces.
I'm getting mine now. This is funny.
Right.
Yeah.
When you go back and you find some of the stuff you were prompting for, and I was like, I was way more creative back then. Like, what am I prompting for here? Distant alien rave with acid trip visuals. Okay.
Oh my god.
What do you got in there?
What do I have in here? So I think it's interesting, dude, because I was actually at the time, I was working for this company.
Damn. These are cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Didn't even know I made this stuff. Like some of the stuff you forget that you tried, right? Like I know these are all from like carousels, right? That's how I can look at these and know which carousels these were from back in the day. Then
wild. I don't think I was doing carousels in V4. I know I wasn't doing carousels before.
It's the first time trying like mood boards and stuff with V4, like in one prompt. You forget how cool, how like insane V4 was though in general. It was just so good. Oh my
god!
I miss it so much.
This is wild.
These were. There was also this was my first addiction was these like alien people. I don't know why. I like couldn't get enough of them.
Those are kind of dope.
They kept generating. I bring them in back as style references and as
do you really?
image references every once in a while. Yeah, like this one I've used a few times as an image reference to try and get something that's like just a newer version of it because I was really digging that it could handle this.
Oh my gosh, bro. Dude,
yeah.
Look at these prompts. Look at these prompts. This is nuts. This is like when you're really, what do we want to call this? Token jamming? Like
wow, new term.
I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just throwing tokens in there that sound good that you feel like are gonna do something super heroic for your prompt. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I'm reading this one right now. Trailer park homes stacked on top of each other. Hyper-realistic photography. Cinematic. Super detailed. Cinematic lighting. Post-processing. Post-production. CGI. VFX. SFX. Full color. HDR. Realistic. 8K.
Ultra-realistic. 8K.
Oh, my God. I mean,
Bring 'em up.
what are we doing? This is definitely early days. We have no idea what the fuck.
What were you watching Ready Player One?
I think that's kind of where that idea came from.
That's what it looks like. The stacks.
Yeah, the stacks. Yeah.
I forget that everything was just a square. Like
it was just a square. That's right.
It. It was just 1-1. It's like
everything was 1-1. When did that change? 5?
I don't know. That must have been like a big update, though. Must have been amped about that one.
Yeah, you see, like I think I was on this little kick where. Because at that time, like when you're in Discord, like and you have no idea what you're doing, you're like looking for things, and you're just like, oh, okay, like this is cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
What about the hands?
Yeah,
like
the hands, baby.
Yeah. I got those numbers. That was
what
pretty
was that?
impressive.
Yeah, what was that? That was
Did you type in?
2023, though.
It didn't get the numbers.
Give me 30.
It didn't get
You're right.
them close.
But this was definitely, there were a lot of just random things prompted for at that time to just kind of like figure out what is going on here. A lot of this stuff is actually related to work, like some of that video stuff, the lasso stuff, the Western stuff. This is, I think, where it started getting like NBA. Can I get like the Hawks peach and sit on top where the building, 8K, full cartoon. Yeah, like no idea what I was doing, right? Like
it's funny to go back and just see where
trying to get Seneca.
I do it
like
every
actually,
once in a while.
like love that one still. Seneca back
Bring
in
it
V4.
back.
Pretty sick.
Bring
see
it
what
back.
else
Use
I-
it as an image
I actually-
reference.
But here's the thing. Okay, I wonder if does it? It does take it off scales. Let's go. So like getting like this kind of stuff in V4 was what like got you excited because you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, I can see the potential here, right? And that
Yeah.
was where it's like, if I remember correctly, we're just like, this is so new, and we're able to get this. Like you could like the fact that you could get this was like unimaginable because it's like, okay, if I wanted that image that's not photorealistic, I know nothing about illustration. I know nothing about any of the tools that do illustration, right? And it's just like, oh, right. And even though there was like real no controllability to this, it was pretty wild. But yeah, like this is bringing back some memories. There was some pretty cool ones. Like I did some Cardinal stuff.
I found
like,
mining ideas from there is the best part because you go back to like where you were trying to get back then, and you're like, I can get there now. Like you
that's an interesting
get back
idea.
into your mind space, right?
That's an interesting idea because if you had the knowledge you had now with prompting, but then you were to think about that and how you would do it today,
And the features,
right?
Yeah,
100%.
Because that was
Like
where
this-
that was like that BMW jet and the F-16 race. I was like, I did that in V4, but I went
Here
back,
it is.
found it. Yeah,
This was an
Lasso.
image that I used for a customer event at work. This was one of the images that changed it for me because it's like, okay, we're going to do this theme around this, right? And where are you going to find like real cowboy illustrative stuff? We don't have a designer, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
With the colors. And it's like, to get something like that and be able to tie a story together thematically was like a game changer. This actually, like this piece, there was another piece in here. I think it was this one. One of these ones. I'm pretty sure it was like this or something like this. And it's like, those made its way into, this event. And that was like a really like just inflection point of thinking through this technology. And this was like, we did an award for a golden boot, and like, okay, we could come up with an idea to design the golden boot, it's just like, wow.
and then you start going into all the other black and gold stuff.
Do you remember like too, like with the UX UI stuff, you're just
Yep.
like, oh, like it's not perfect, but like to visualize how something
Could
was
look.
like that, you didn't have to design it and spend the time. Like that was pretty wild.
Yeah,
Oh man,
did so
some
much
fun.
fun.
Some fun with
We'll
that.
have to
dude.
we'll have to go back to another episode and mine some of this stuff, see what we can do with it. Because I brought some of the V4. I went nuts a couple, with the mood boards a couple weeks ago when I was starting to do some of them. I was bringing old V4 in as an image reference, and then dialing down the image weight, and then attaching the mood boards, and then
Ooh,
it kind of had
ooh.
this really cool aesthetic where I was like, no way, it's like that's legit because there's so much to do with those old images because I think that was like the most purest form of our creation. It was like that first, like when the dopamine hit the first time, and you're like, what else can I do?
I remember like
miss
there was
it.
one I didn't see it in there, but it was like recreating St. Louis in the 1800s or something like that, and it had like horse carriages and some of the old buildings, and of course, like not all of it's historically accurate to St. Louis, but it definitely had a vibe, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit,
I'm gonna have to go back to the Tulum Hotel and then
the Tulum Hotel.
Let's make a whole sizzle reel of it now.
The Tulum Hotel, man, that was good times. That was definitely. I don't think I knew you at that point. I maybe, and I don't remember how you got. I don't remember what it was like. specifically where I found out about you, but I remember the Tulum thing, and I don't know that I knew you yet. And I remember thinking that's like a really cool idea to basically then piece together a couple ideas as a storyboard, right? Like
Yeah.
that experience going through the hotel from the moment that you arrive to getting the drink to getting the, the meal.
It was a project, man.
That was dope. That was dope.
That was a whole I mean, those used to take me a week
Yeah,
to get
it took
done.
a long time.
Yeah.
And if anybody
10 times
understood
also not
that,
as fast.
it was people like me, because it was just like, that's why I think you even appreciate it even more, because it's like, everything that went into it, where the tech's at. It's just like there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut there. It just takes time.
There was
Takes a
no
lot of
generative fill. There was no edit, so you had to like
all
hit
you
the slot
had was
machine on
image
some of them.
reference too, right?
Yeah,
And
that was it.
man, I don't know, just last little nugget, maybe it feels like counterintuitive since it's the end, but permutations, guys, style weight, image weight, even like I was trying to explain this, and like this use case doesn't come up as much anymore, but like that idea where you can take an image reference and just take enough to give it a little bit of information. So like that 0 to anywhere from like a 0.25 to like a 0.4, 0.5, maybe it's probably a little too strong in that
Great
sense. But like
range.
you give them a little bit of that and you're trying to stack that on top of your text prompt, dude, you can get some amazing stuff.
It's the best. I still like my image references. I feel like they've sort of been the ugly stepchild now for
I don't
a
think
while.
anybody else does that except for you and me. I think we might be the
old
only
school
people
stuff.
on earth that are using image reference 0 point something in permutations even. Like I just don't think anybody else is doing that.
Yes. I mean,
I digress.
I love it so much. But let's got to wrap this one up. I got to go take the dog out now cuz she's licking my ankle saying that's enough, dude. We got to go. We got to go
time to
out
go,
for
bro.
for the night walk.
Well, man, fun as always. And we'll I'll be traveling, but I'll be back for the next episode. So, V7 will drop. You'll have to update me on what's going on, and we'll go from there.
It's probably going to. Now, I just remember that's next week. So now get prepared, I guess. Dude, we'll have a fun vacation, having some FOMO too while it drops.
Yeah, man.
Don't spend your
I'll
vacation on
I'll
Midjourney.
see you in a couple weeks. I'm going to bring my podcast
right.
stuff just in case, and then
Just in
we'll
case.
we'll kind of see what happens. But
Let's do it. All right. As everyone knows, if you've made it this far, like and subscribe. Damn it. Please. Damn it and please. And then
damn it,
we'll
please.
see you next week.
See you next week.
See you
Thanks,
next week.
guys. Catch you in the next
Later.
one.